is not Yola, is not Gombe, it's not Abuja. This is Lagos. You know, for those who know Abule Egba in Lagos, they would never have believed that this is the city that they are, the part of Lagos that they know. It's quite a scene, isn't it? And it is such a beautiful one. I bet the people who live around Abule Egba and who, because this road leads into Lagos and outwards toward Ogun State, Songo to be precise. And those who know this area would be wondering whether or not it's the same city that they ever got used to or they grew up in, or those who did grow up in that area. And the name explains itself. Abule Egba, and it's not too far from Ogun State. You do the math, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. The temperature in Lagos right now is 27 degrees centigrade with a humidity of 89%. Oh, by the way, the weather feels like 33%, and who knows what the rest of the day is looking like. Well, I know that Chamberlain, you don't miss Abule Egba axis. And Kayla, I'm very certain you have no idea what I'm talking about. Do you?
Miss what? Exactly. Well, exactly. Well, it's a lovely city. I have to
tell them, Chamberlain. Tell them. Let them know. Let them know what's going on.
Beautiful city, Lagos, of course. But
you know, Abuja. You know. I mean, Abule Egba is nice, yeah. I mean, it's wonderful. I know the lot of you go through that road to come to work, you know, but you should see where Chamberlain comes to work from. You know, not a single bump on the road, very smooth. You know, he doesn't even need his air conditioning anymore because the air here is naturally chilly. You understand me, Ayo? I don't know. Can you relate?
Okay, this was trying to shave my head in my presence. You beat that. Well, it is a lovely city wherever you are, in any part of the country. We just love to bring you all of that as much as we can. And we do thank you for joining us this morning on the program. So let's go ahead and talk to you about some of the things to expect this morning. Food security has been a thing. There's been a lot of back and forth about what needs to be done and how it should be approached. So today, the Minister of State for Agric is having a certain conference on food security.
I hope we pronounce this properly. Peste de Petit.
Oh.
Yes, is going to Ruminants Global Control and Eradication Strategy. It's called PPRGEES, the roadmap, apparently. So it's going to be Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi is going to be the one heading to as Minister of State for Agriculture. And we're going to be there, apparently. He invited us so we could come watch this particular conference and see what the fallout from the conference is. We are facing a serious food security crisis in the country. Is this a way out? Is this a roadmap to take us out of this situation? We'll be finding out all of that today. I think it's holding in the nation's capital at about 9 a.m. It should have started by now.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't know we had a serious crisis.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Maybe because I've not been eating too much.
There is a crisis with food security. The president has been talking about it. We're seeing state governors, worried about it. And if this is going to be the way out, if there's some sort of roadmap, Sabi Abdullahi says we're going to focus on that.
But we had an emergency in the agri sector, which the president declared. So we're hoping that there'll be a lot more explanation about that scenario and this one, and perhaps what they plan to do moving forward, knowing that security is a thing. Because if the farmers can't access their farms, it will be a challenge. So that's one thing to expect this morning.
And Kayla is focusing on the minimum wage debacle. Well, of course, the papers speak to that as well. But at 10 o'clock during Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, we'll be talking about minimum wage. What can states really afford? Chamberlain, I'm one of the happiest people to know that now we are giving more attention to the states, not just to the federal government. So What can the states really afford? There are those that couldn't pay 18,000 naira, aren't paying 30,000 naira, and we've been mum. So now, when the increase comes, because it will come, what can states really afford? More on that at 10 o'clock during Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Meantime, Chamberlain, take us through the papers.
Here are some of the papers we've got for you this morning. All right, we'll start with New Telegraph this morning. Infrastructure neglect, poor investment, others liable for power crisis, ascribed to experts. And then the writer says governors more interstate power cooperation. So certainly will not be a bad idea to see how they can work on that and ensure things go right. Right after that is the Abuja Inquirer. Police, military arrest bandits, ex-convicts on Abuja hills. Rescue victims. I know many may wonder, so what is going on here? I mean, what kind of patrol do we have on these hills? Well, that we might focus on much later here today. Nigerian News Direct, Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway repairs stall months after fake approval. Angry commuters, motorists, others demand immediate action as road conditions worsen. Wow. How is this? Well, this is their version of what's going on this morning on the front page of Nigerian News Direct. Then Daily Independent is next. Despite CBN assurances, 3 banks show signs of distress. This is ascribed to analysts here this morning. And then the Blueprint, refuse to join us, get killed. Terrorist gang threatens Niger youths. Slay 20. Locals unable to access farms. Troops neutralize 10 in Kaduna community, Abia Forest. And then this Nigeria, MDA struggling to pay salaries over 50% operating surplus deduction. That's how they lead here. Trade associations, workers want policy reversal. Experts urge FG to peg policy at 20% in first instance. Policy introduced to regain 1 trillion naira yearly loss, says FG. The Guardian, rising cost of borrowing, economy in throes of credit squeeze, sheds 7.1 trillion naira in 3 months. And then Business Day, stocks defy rate hike to gain 15.25 trillion naira in 5 months. Geregu Power, Dangote Cement, BUA drive rally. April, May performance show markets losing steam. Ooh. Have a look at the Vanguard newspaper. Experts see danger around a minimum wage battle. And then one of the writer here says, President Nas will determine our next action ascribed to Labour, alleges conspiracy between governors and OPS. So, some of the stories right there for you here today. Or Daily Trust, governors spend billions on cars for lawmakers. It's misplacement of priority, activists, CSOs. The Daily Times, no cause for alarm over Nigeria's debt profile. Ascribed to experts, say nothing wrong with obtaining loans if used judiciously for developmental projects. So, I know, you also have heard that narrative before. That's Daily Times. Well, those are some of the front pages this morning.
Certainly so many stories picking interest this morning, but I'd love to start with the Vanguard newspaper. Of course, I already mentioned that the Business Morning on Sunrise Daily is going to be focusing on what the states can really afford. But when the Vanguard newspaper leads with that story that says experts seek danger around minimum wage, story being on page 5, then you want to ask some questions. Now, in the previous program, you saw the morning brief. The Labour leader there, was talking, well, when my colleagues asked him, look, there are some states that couldn't pay the previous 30,000 naira. And he said he laid it on the federal government, saying the federal government kept mum. And I'm wondering, is it the responsibility of the federal government to fight for labor? Well, one of the allegations there, I mean, from his own comments, is that, okay, the federal government has seen that the constitution was not being lined up with. Fine. So, but it is not the federal government that is directly affected. It is members of Labour that are being directly affected. So what is Labour, what has Labour done about that, and what should Labour do? Raising that argument a number of people have raised. Can the states be allowed to determine what their minimum wage is, what they can afford? Because that's a consideration out there. But then when we hear that experts are saying that there is danger around the corner around this minimum wage battle, and we hear all kinds of things being said here and there, and when the Labour says that the people who are responsible for whatever issues we are going with economically are always going around in convoys of cars, there are those who are also asking the question, what kind of cars do Labour leaders themselves ride? All kinds of questions, but these may be just permutations. But I am just hoping that at the end of the day, Nigeria benefits. It is my own prayer that Nigeria benefits. All around all of this conversation, are we also looking at productivity of the states? Because unless we are looking at the productivity of the states in the process of asking for more wages, we should be asking ourselves, what is the sustainability plan for this increase? It's just questions, guys. That's my lead take this morning, Chamberlain and Kayla.
Indeed, and of course, like we've been saying for the past 2 weeks or so, the focus is moving from the federal government to the states. In fact, the question has even come up as to the viability of these places that we're calling states. If a state is not able to feed itself, why does it exist? Does it exist for FAC allocations? And then, of course, with the increase in FAC allocations, what's going on? What has increased? What has been done, to justify this increase? We know everything is more expensive now, but has more been done at state levels? Well, the Daily Trust this morning carries a very troubling headline. Governors spend billions on cars for lawmakers. That's from the Daily Trust this morning. And this is from activists and civil society. It's misplacement of priority morning from page 4. And if you actually do go to page 4, you'll be hit with something so scary. It goes from state to state, talking about what the state governors have given in terms of cash for vehicles to lawmakers from their states. In Kano, for instance, Abba Kabiru Yusuf gave 2.7 billion worth of exotic vehicles to the members of the State Assembly. We're seeing that here from page 4. Lawmakers getting SUVs in Benue, in Gombe, in Kogi, Ondo, Ebonyi, Kebbi, Osun, Niger. In fact, in Niger, 25 of the 27 members of the State Assembly got Prado Jeeps each from Governor Mohamed Bago. And Delta, it goes on. So we're seeing that from page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. You should get a copy and join civil society and whoever it is new to ask more questions. Why were these cars given? Were they given, first of all, because this is from CSOs, from the civil society organization. They're saying this was done. So you can question your lawmakers. If they say these cars were given to your lawmakers, you can question your lawmakers. Find out if your lawmaker is in any of these places and put a call through to him or write him and ask what's going on. Why was this done? He has the obligation to answer you. So we have to start coming closer to the people and understanding what is really going on here.
Well, interesting point, guys. So I think one of the things to look out for is what they all decide. What kinds of arguments have they even made? We're not privy to the reason. So I just the sound bites afterwards. So who knows if Labour is going to crunch the figures for those states, because they do have workers in those states. Look at the revenue profile, the debt profile. If they say they will borrow to pay, what about the IGR? What capacity do they have? So all of those figures will matter at the end of the day. And for governors who always keep, because they'll go again in another 4 years. They'll give you all the reasons why you should vote them in. Maybe we need to start making economy the number one objective. Because if we do that, I think it might change a lot of things. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to how we elect and who we elect. If they can't provide the solutions, didn't we know before they were elected? I know, different narrative entirely. But don't worry, we'll talk about perhaps this and other matters in just a moment. So join us in a moment.
There's a lot of fear in the journey towards building wealth, especially in an ever-changing economy like ours. And you know why that is? It's because navigating the world of investments without facts and insights is like walking in the dark. But that fear stops now. Opportunities open up to you when you have a trusted guide. Someone with over 28 years of experience advising individuals, corporates, and governments to achieve their dreams through strategic and well-timed investments. That someone is AfriInvest. The journey of 1,000 miles is easier when you have a trusted guide and partner who knows the way. So, take the first step. AfriInvest, simplifying investments, creating wealth.
Following the inauguration of commercial operations of the Abuja Rail Mass Transit System by Mr. President and his grant of 6 months free train ride for all train commuters, train services have commenced in earnest since Thursday the 30th of May as follows. Train departs Metro Station for Airport Train Station 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 3:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. daily. Departs Airport Train Station for Metro Station 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 3:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. daily. Second train departs Edu Train Station for Bazango Train Station 8:40 a.m., 10:40 a.m., 4:10 p.m. and 6:10 p.m. daily. Depart Bazango Train Station for Edu Train Station 7:30 a.m., 9:30 a.m., 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. daily. For more information, visit our various train stations. Enjoy a world of safe, affordable and comfortable transportation system. FCT Administration Announcer.
No matter where they are, if it concerns the people, we are there. From community game changers to homemade solution providers, where assurance and trust are built.
Policing should be people from the community who do the job. You don't bring an outsider.
We hear about Amotekun. We've not seen much of them around this area.
Documenting journeys of many starting big from a small place. Creating an intentional community where people go beyond living together to building strong and more friendly communities.
Community Report, only on Channels Television.
Okay, welcome back. Yes, indeed, we've got those two gentlemen joining us on the program today, but we'll start off here on this leg and then we'll go back and forth to Lagos here as well. Dr. Akin Fakunmuda joins us this morning. Now, I have several titles for him. Now, if you look at this certain draft of a certain bill that's been circulating, he's the author of that bill, which we will talk about in a moment. He We also understand the secretary of Eminent Elders Forum. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
Okay, so let's take a look at this particular bill, which I'm sure a number of people might have seen it. It is titled "A Bill for an Act to Substitute the Annexure to Decree 24 of 1999 with a new governance model for the Federal Republic of Nigeria." So if you look at that, that's how it is captioned this morning. And it says this act may be cited as the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria's new governance model for Nigeria Act 2024. It goes on. There are several parts to this which we will take a look at. So, Dr. Fakonda, could you talk to us? Why was there a need to come up with this at this time in the first place?
Well, thank you very much. The country is in a very big, bad situation. And I'm focusing on 2027. If we carry on the way we are going now, 2027, very bad situation. If we are going to be using 100 million naira to get formed again, and all the dog eat dog, winner take course, cheating, everything, glitching, the television, all these things. If we don't lower the temperature to restructure the country, we are just going nowhere, absolutely. So when the order of the anthem came about, I could see that whoever it was involved wanted to go back to pre-1966. So if you are taking the anthem, you must well go back to 1963 thereafter. So I just put all the materials in my computer together and said, wow, I've been working on this for more than 7 years anyway.
7 years?
7 years.
So is it just you, or you have a team of people who are working on this?
Well, I've been on various teams. There is also Reason of Yoruba Land, which I'm a member. I drafted the Constitution of Nigeria in 2017. It was launched in 2018. A member of the Eminent Elders Forum, I'm the Secretary of Steering Committee. We produced a draft document along this same line, submitted to the National Assembly. It was ignored. And then there is a new body coming up now, the Coalition of Indigenous Ethnic Nationalities of Nigeria. All the major blocks in Nigeria are represented on that coalition. And we'll be thinking of how can we restructure the system in a very efficient manner. So the 30 states we have now, 30 states or 30 regions, 774 local governments or regions, they are so wasteful. They were created when oil money was just flowing. We are just balkanizing the country. We are now gone full circle. We have to roll back if we are really serious. Absolutely. Look at the minimum wage they're talking about now. If the country is unified once Sufi law, so somebody in Elisha will be earning the same money with somebody who is in Port Harcourt and Abuja. Does that make sense? You can get a free house in my place if you're a federal staff in Elisha. But in Abuja, you need 2 million to pay rent. So if you're a level 70 officer in here, and you're a principal federal government college in Elisha, you'll be earning level 70 at the same. When you are getting out for 200,000 in Elisha, you can get it for 2 million in Abuja. Then, most of the structure that we need to change. What does a minister or last member do more than a permanent secretary? Should anybody earn more than a permanent secretary in the federal system of Nigeria?
Okay, so
many issues. We need to restructure the system appropriately. Thank you.
So there are so many things out there. First, there's several reports saying that this bill is the president is supposed to receive it this week. Is that right? What's going on?
I've almost finished the work. You know, the document it's like a TOR for, you want to build a house. You give specifications to the architect. And the architect goes ahead and designs the house for you. So that document is a term of reference to be given to designers of the Constitution. All the features that should be in the Constitution were embodied there. It's not the Constitution itself. Okay, that be as it may, I put it out to the public space, and the response has been overwhelming. There is no advance.
Are they happy or mixed feelings, or saying, no, we can't do this?
Extremely happy.
Across the country, different parts of the country?
Across the world. Extremely happy with it, and I'm energized that this is happening.
No, leave the world first. Let's talk about in Nigeria.
In Nigeria,
all parts of the country, are they What, you're getting support that this is the way to go?
Absolutely, except some northern friends. And I went to Liberty TV to talk for 1 hour last week. And in the studio there are my friends who are from Northwest, and they felt, this is a reasonable argument to advance. Everybody will be benefited if this is done. We need to just train Nigeria to models where we compete and complement and do things ourselves. We are too much entrained with the oil that we are sharing. Go and do something you really look. The Chinese are mining all over Nigeria because we ignored it. They are just like rats. They are taking everything out of Nigeria. They are taking timber from Cross River. We don't even know.
Let's go down. I don't think Chinese people will be very happy with you calling them rats this morning.
But they're everywhere. They're everywhere. You don't even know how they got there. You just see them cutting minerals away.
Well, they're not doing it illegally, are they? They're not stealing.
Well,
you pointed out earlier that they started doing it because we ignored it.
Absolutely.
So they got licenses and they're doing their businesses, and many of them are doing legal business here. But that's not what I want to talk about. The bill in itself. Let's really get down to the nitty-gritty of that bill.
Okay.
What are the top 5, let's say 5 things that you feel that bill addresses that are not being addressed today?
Fine. First thing is that in a federation, we have 2-tier structure. And each tier must have defined constitution. Now we have one constitution that covers everything. United States, every state has its own flavor of constitution, apart from the federal system. The same thing in Australia, the same thing in Canada. Absolutely. Then we are differentiated. We are just not one the way we say it is. In Canada, there is Quebec for the French people. They are speaking French. And in Alberta, they have crude oil. It belongs to them. It's the same country. And we are all running from here to Canada. And we don't want to do the same thing that they are doing there. Several other features. We want a ceremonial president.
Before you go to that part, 2-tier framework of governance, federal and state.
Yeah.
That's what you're proposing here, summary of this. Yeah. But at the moment, that's what we're operating, where the president, I think AGF, has even gone to court saying no.
So bring
local government has to function. Now here, maybe you should explain to us.
It can't function because
the state level, no local government here.
See, if the legal suit succeeds and local governments get money directly from Abuja, many local government chairmen will be coming to Abuja to follow up their claims. You will see 724 chairmen coming here because in fact they will ignore the governor. The governor doesn't have consequence at all. They will be coming to Abuja to follow up their allocation. Can you imagine 724 people coming to Abuja? Can you imagine the cost? The way governors are coming to Abuja every day?
Okay, that's the tip of the iceberg. Let's also introduce our guest in Lagos, and then we'll also continue in that one. Ayo.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Dr. Tunji Abayomi is here with us. He's a human rights activist and he's a legal practitioner. He joins us right here in the studio. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
This argument about a new constitution, for you, what is it about?
Is to establish an appropriate framework for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's just basically it. It's
appropriate.
Yes, an appropriate framework.
What do you mean by that?
Let me explain to you. If you want to build a house, you need a foundation on which to build. And the quality, stability, longevity of that house depends on the strength of that foundation. The presumption is that a constitution creates a nation and everything. That's why it's called, as I noted in my book, it said it's a constitution controls all laws. It's a living document, alterable and amendable according to its own prescription. It's deemed to predate the government, being the source of all governments. So it's said to be deals directly, presumably, with all times and all issues of the state. The heirs of the past and testators of the future.
Is that to say that the current constitution doesn't address these issues?
That what?
The current constitution we have now, is that to say that it doesn't answer all these questions?
It doesn't, but that's really not the issue. So I have listened to the discussion going on with this new bill. Unfortunately, you know, the Bible says my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Part of the problem of our nation is that men and women of knowledge, they are of no consequence in our nation. And yet, every creation in human evolutionary progression is as a result of the power of the mind to come up with ideas. Now, the issue is this bill, but that's not the issue. You have a bill here now. Is it different? It's just a constitutional opinion. It's not different from what is imposed on the people of Nigeria by the military. It's not different from the opinion that came up in 2014 conference by Jonathan. It's not different from Promotional, but that's not the problem. The people are still focusing on the content. The issue of the Constitution, the fundamental of the Constitution are basically three: legitimacy of origin, legitimacy of process, and legitimacy of end product. Legitimacy of origin, legitimacy of process, and legitimacy of end product. So when you're talking, first and foremost, you don't bring a constitution into existence by way of a bill. A bill, you bring a bill to bring about a law. And constitution is not a law. It must be understood. A law comes as a consequence of a constitution through the House, the National Assembly. But a constitution is an agreement by the people to create a government to which they delegate their power on how they want to be governed. That's what a constitution is.
So what's the basis for changing the constitution? What's the basis? How does the process start?
Very good. What's the basis for changing the constitution? It is just simple. We have not, as a people, sat around the table to agree on the type of government we want to create.
So
which we want to delegate our power to govern us.
So how does that process start?
Okay, now, there have been total confusion, like I said, in Nwabueze's conference. Under the colonialists, it was like a writ of summons. We were called to Lancaster, and we were given the constitution. We didn't give it to ourselves. The military came, it took over the power, and in his case, it's even worse, because it gave itself, by its own law, the power to make laws. Not the constitution, the power to make laws for good government, peace, good government. Power that is co-equal to that of the National Assembly. It didn't give itself the power to make a constitution. But when it came to making a constitution, it realized that it didn't have that power. That's why it said, we the people gave ourselves a constitution. Of course, we didn't give it to ourselves. But it realized that a constitution's validity and legitimacy lies in its coming from the people.
Now,
so how do we go about it
exactly
now? And I want to now attend to that. With this same confusion we have in the country, there's only one way. Only one way. I emphasize only one way by which you can have a legitimate constitution. And I spoke to them again. What basis? It's very simple. The National Assembly can pass a law to enable the people to give to themselves a constitution. Why can it pass a law? Because it's exercising delegated power of the people, not from that constitution. Because if you look at Britain Britain's government is legitimate. Why is it legitimate? It's legitimized by the votes of the people. Delegation.
Is that the way the 2014 conference was convened?
No, the 2014 conference had no legal foundation. There was no law that brought it about. Now, in the case, you see, authority can only be
So you are saying then, my apologies, so you are saying then that the 2014, the resolutions of the 2014 conference was not legitimate?
No, that's not the authority. The content is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Like the content of this bill, like the content of military constitution, like the content of Promotional. But the legitimacy of it is the problem.
You know,
can I just explain to you?
Okay.
Authority is vested only by two ways in human history. It is either by the people freely giving it or by law. That's the only way authority is given. It's either by the people. For example, in Britain, the people gave authority to the government. They don't have a constitution, but they gave authority freely by delegation. America has a constitution. Authority is by law. So the problem of this nation is that in the case of Nigeria, it's even more complex because, like I said, it is United Nations of Nigeria, United Nations of Nigeria. There are few nations in the world where nationalities are permanently located in different sectors.
Everyone listening to you now would just be asking the question, so where is he going? Are you for a new constitution or not for a new constitution?
I'm for a people's constitution.
How does the process start? You talked about the National Assembly making a law. Yeah. The law has to be activated. The law has to be executed. How does that law get executed?
That's not a problem. Once the law is executed, is very simple. Once you pass a law, you pass a law to enable the people to give to themselves a constitution.
And then what happens after that?
You execute the law. There's already a government in power. There is already a de facto government. The de facto government...
So the only problem, my apologies, the only problem that the 2014 conference had, in your opinion, is that there was no law from the National Assembly that put the team together.
Yes, no authority, no foundation, no legitimacy.
So even the president of Nigeria doesn't have the authority to put a national conference together for a new constitution.
In fact, the power of the president is to execute the laws. That's the only power it has. Which law is it executing? It's not executing any law. The executive power of something is to execute the laws.
Okay. Now, this bill that Dr. Fakwonda has come up with, you don't think it is a basis for a law?
It isn't. It is just an opinion like any others. You understand what I mean? It's no different from military constitution. It's talking of a bill. Do you bring a constitution about by way of a bill? I have read through it. I read it extensively. It's talking of a prime minister giving power to. It's talking of regional territory. It's talking of and so on and so forth. But the issue, the point, the fundamental that I want you to appreciate is this. Like I have always said, look, take Nigeria like a cocoa farm that we all have, a cocoa farm, our inheritance. You are a journalist, I'm a lawyer, our brother is a teacher, and our sister is a nurse. The question is, how do we want to manage that collective inheritance we have? The only sensible thing is that we sit down freely to agree.
But someone has to take the lead. Let me ask Dr. Fakwonda, do you agree with him, Mr. Fakwonda, that this is just your opinion and it needs the efficacy of the National Assembly to make it into something that a national conference can use to create a national constitution?
Dr. Abayomi has not got the nuance of my proposal. It's a proposal for an executive bill to be transmitted by the President to National Assembly. The elements of the bill are there. There is a provision for referendum on whatever is agreed upon eventually. That document says the features I would like to see in a new structure of the Constitution. Once the process outlined in that document is followed, then we are in the same terms with Dr. Abayomi. We are not different at all. Okay, now we are in 2024. We are not in a vacuum. There is no military takeover that will declare anything. I'm seeking for an invocation of the doctrine of necessity. In 1999, we invoked necessity because the day Obasanjo was sworn in, we had no constitution at all. But we wanted the military people to go away. So with that constitution, the government came in.
What about the part where he says that you don't bring about a constitution by this proposal?
Once this document is taken by Mr. President and is converted to an executive bill, taking my idea there, submit to National Assembly, National Assembly will now enact a law that will authorize people to aggregate whatever, all the processes are set out in that bill. Once followed everything inside that bill, in 1 year's time, we are going to have new states based on aggregation. We are going to have state constitution. We are going to have a new framework. And at the end of it, there will be a referendum to enact the new constitution into law. The proposals I have there are elements to consider. It doesn't mean everything I propose there will be taken.
I mean, not to take you backwards, yeah, but for a lot of people who, because we've been hearing this conversation for quite a bit, and he talks about three things: legitimacy of origin, legitimacy of protest, and legitimacy of end product. Now, I want to go back to the major things that you want changed. You started off by talking to us about a two-tier system as opposed to a three-tier system. What else would you like to see changed?
2 tiers. The second tier will be at liberty to configure how they want in their own area.
Okay.
The third one is that the whole structure of governance will be simplified. For instance, there will be no INEC centrally.
No INEC?
No INEC. Each region will elect their own delegate the way they wish to come to Abuja. And to cure the problem of censors, and each region will be treated on equal basis. So if you say each region or state bring in 20 persons, you are free to get your 20 persons in your own, based on your own culture. You might try to bring emirs, retired permanent secretaries, whatever. Once you get to Abuja, if there are 8 states, there'll be 20 persons per state, so there'll be 160 members in the assembly. Then it is there that we elect the president.
So you're advocating for 8 states, a dissolution of our 36 and FCT structure.
Not that term, aggregation.
Okay. Aggregation. Okay.
For efficiency.
Okay.
There's a map there. I belong to a committee coalition of indigenous nationalities.
Okay.
Where the current 6 zones is not fair because there are many things across boundaries. We considered all, for instance, Northern Cross River doesn't belong to Cross River. It should move towards Taraba. The Okuns of Kwara, of Kogi, is supposed to be in Western region. The same thing, the Bumina. Southern Kaduna should change. Southern Kebbi State is not part of Northern Kebbi State. So we thought about this in detail and proposed an 8-state structure. And then people are saying, oh, region. Look, there's not, a region is an entity bounded by territory. So we can use states, we can use region. In the 1960s, we're using region. 1967, we're using states. So now, if you're using geographical cardinal points, we can have Midwest region, we can have East Central region, West Central region, Northeast region. Nomenclature has changed, in effect. If you have these 8 states, they will have their own constitution fashioned after what suits them in their own area.
No, but before if you came up with this, did you ask them, meet the people, if this is what they really want?
This document, look, are we not supposed to be thinking in the country? We are thinking. We don't have a force. If I was a military government, we'll have just decreed it. This is for public space to discuss their behavior for the next 1 year.
There's been several maps out there.
This one is the latest map. the map will change eventually. But whatever is agreed upon in the next 1 year of discussion will be what the people want.
Are you sure? Because what we're seeing is more people from the many states that we have wanting more states.
Well, we're
all in a bid to get governance closer. Everyone is
no. It's to share.
Won't the 8 states, make some particular people disappear?
The states are bankrupt now. There's no money. When we had money in the 70s, when money was not up there during the war era, we were bringing first people to come to Nigeria to come and dance. But now we are still selling 1 million barrels of oil per day. We are now 200 million. In the 70s, we were just 55 million, and we are selling 2 million barrels of oil. When you have become bankrupt as a country, can you continue to live big? People say they cannot stay together because they want to share. But now, these 8 states will be 8 centers of production.
Okay, so after these 8 states, what else are we looking at right now?
Many other things.
Such as?
In terms of you work and eat. No more Abuja to come and be sharing things. And in fact, you subscribe to federal government in a cooperative.
No more FAC allocations.
You pay your bills. No more FAC allocation at all.
Okay.
Yeah, but isn't that the fundamental thing? Even with the laws that we have at the moment, if we amend it and ensure that states have a lot more access to local resources, distribution of resources, and then, we fix the way our elections go, would there be any need for this?
Once you have a very old garment, you are patching it. It's not the same thing as when you actually...
Yeah, but isn't that a normal process, amending the Constitution?
No. Amendment is just incremental. Look, our problem is grave. I told you, we cannot go into the next election if we don't do something this year to change the structure of the country. Our problem is grave. Okay, let's continue. We are in Nigeria together. If we continue with the same election system we had last year in 2027, do you think we can survive it? I don't think so as a right-taking Nigeria.
So no more FAC allocation?
No FAC allocation, but then it's not going to disappear overnight. It might be a 3-year period. Not that you just cut you off immediately. Okay. There will be a 3-year transition in everything. If we start this year, by 2027 we'll be getting results. Each of the new states now will go out and think about how to survive. And maybe in over a 3-year period, you'll be reducing by 20%. And then your salary scale in each region will be different. You cannot be earning the same compensation the way it is now. Local government chairman in Osun State is earning the same amount of Abuja local government. You're not doing the same function. We need to differentiate and come down to brass tacks of development. We have been faking in this country. The time we wake up, we will get better.
Dr. Baime, let me ask you about the Constitution. Now, we hear people say time and again that it was given to us by the military. But we all know that in November 11, 1998, at that time, Abdul Salam considered what he called the Constitution Debate Coordinating Committee, which was headed by Justice Nikki Toby at the time. They went around the country, they gathered memorandum, they did all sorts, and came up with a document. In fact, let me quote what he said at the time. He said, after all the frenetic debates up and down, north and south, east and west, in the light of the memoranda and the oral presentation on the 1995 draft constitution, it is clear that Nigerians basically opt for the 1979 constitution with relevant amendments. They want it, and they have copiously given their reasons for their choice in the different memoranda and oral presentations. So, we have recommended to the Provisional Ruling Council the adoption of the 1979 Constitution with the relevant amendments from the 1995 draft Constitution. That was how this came to be. So not that there was any military man present in that committee. It was headed by him, and there were all civilians there.
That's precisely where the problem is. Because under that system, sovereignty belonged to the military, not the people. You look at that constitution, it says, whereas the Constitutional Debate Coordinating Committee has presented the report of its deliberation to the Provisional Ruling Council. And whereas the Provisional Ruling Council has approved the report subject to amendments as are deemed necessary. In other words, the military received supposedly a constitution of the people, amended it, and passed it into law. That is the abnormality. In other words, the people's sovereignty is subject to the authority of the military. But remember again, it is not a government that gives a nation a constitution. It is a constitution that gives a nation a government. In our case, it was a military government that gave us a constitution. In essence, forced it on us. But what is even more interesting is that the military government itself recognized that it has no such authority. That's why it says in Article 1 of that same constitution, it says categorically, we the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it recognized that validity of the constitution must come from the people. But when it came to making the constitution, what it had no power to make under law, because it gave itself the power to make law, not to make a constitution. Now it's got a constitution, made a constitution. What do you do with it? It now said, we the people. When it's false, it told a lie about itself.
Is that to say that the military were not Nigerians?
Of course, they are Nigerians, but is it every Nigerian that can just force a law on the people? If the military can do it, the teachers can do it too. NLC can do it. It's just one aspect of Nigeria.
You talked about, Dr. Abraham, you talked about authority.
Yes.
Now, at that time,
yes,
the authority was with the military. There are those who would argue, my apologies, there are those who would argue that the problem of Nigeria, though significantly constitutional, but it is not just the Constitution, but sometimes in the execution of the Constitution. It falls back to the people who are executing that Constitution.
Well, first of all, before you execute a Constitution, you must have a Constitution. So
we have one now that is being, that a good number of people, including legal practitioners like that, believe they have been executed in breach.
When you say you have a Constitution...
Just a second. For instance, there is the conundrum between the states and local governments. There are those who believe, hey, there is no local government system empowered by the Constitution. There are those who also say, no, the Constitution says there shall be local government council areas, and they will operate according to the laws that the Houses of Assembly will execute, will pronounce. Now, the Houses of Assembly have pronounced these, local government laws. Just a second. But the state governors do not allow the local governments to function as directed by the Constitution that we have. So what's to say that if we have a new Constitution that is, according to you, legitimate, it will be abided by anyone who is supposed to execute it?
First and foremost, the issue you're raising is a small issue. You take it to the court. If there are conflicts, you take it to the court. In a democracy, you have separation of powers. When there is conflict, in terms of actions, you go to court. But the point I'm making...
Do you think that matter is confusing enough to have to take to the court? The Constitution is clear as to what the functions of the local government...
That's why you have to take it to court.
Oh, really?
Yes.
The Constitution is not clear on the functions of the local governments.
What I'm saying is that when there is confusion, if you think there is a confusion, you go to
I'm asking you, you are a legal practitioner, and you know this Constitution, almost like
But it is not my responsibility to interpret the Constitution. As a lawyer, I stand for my client, another lawyer stands for the client. I will take it to the court. The interpretation of the Constitution, its validity, its control is vested in the courts in all democracies. So when there is, look at section 6.6 of this.
You haven't answered my question, Dr. Abayomi. I'm just asking whether there is any ambiguity in the functions of the
I don't
Constitution.
think there's any ambiguity.
So why is it not being executed as directed by the Constitution?
Maybe because they think there's ambiguity.
Okay.
I may not think there's no ambiguity, but they may think there's ambiguity.
Okay. I think my colleagues in Abuja want to add a word or two. Go ahead, guys.
Yes. Dr. Abayomi, so I want you to be able to bring up one part of this bill that we've been talking about, and it has to do with the office of the president. It looks very, well, what is being proposed looks very similar to what happens in South Africa, really. The president shall be head of the nation state, and the prime minister acting through the National Assembly shall nominate the candidate for president. What do you make of this this proposal? Is this something that can work given our situation in Nigeria?
The prime minister basically delegates power to the president under this new bill. Prime minister acting through the National Assembly to nominate candidate for president. The powers of president are given by prime minister who exercises executive power. The prime minister is the CEO and the commander-in-chiefs and so on and so forth. The question for me, I mean, if this is what the people of Nigeria want, there's no problem. If the people of Nigeria want a kingship by way of constitution, no problem. If they want a presidential arrangement, there's no problem. If they want an oligarchy, there's no problem. The point is, like Kwame Nkrumah said, a people have a right to govern or misgovern themselves through an appropriate constitution. The point I'm making is very simple. The peoples of Nigeria, nationalities, need to sit around the table in freedom and agree on the framework of government for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Right. That has not happened. So if they come around, the bill, yes, there's a bill, it's an opinion, a constitutional opinion. The same thing.
What you're saying here, because the people have got to sit down and decide, not by this bill, as it may suggest.
The defect in the 2024 confab was that there is no enabling law for them to do what they were doing. This document will give National Assembly the chance to pass a law to kickstart the process.
Do they have to have this document? Can't they just pass that law without this document?
The content of what they will pass is what I specified. It's an advisory document on what they should pass. If they take all the issues are in my document and they adopt it and they enact it, at the end of my document, there is to introduce a technical panel, like a political bureau, that will guide the discussion. There will be a secretariat for the state to have their constitution drafted. All the points that have involved the people are specified in this document.
Did you get a green light that the president will receive it this week? When?
No, he has to receive it. I'll send it to him. I will send to his office. Why will he not receive it? I'm tidying it up.
But it doesn't mean that he's going to act on it.
Well, I have no military gun to put on his head. But I'm thinking he's a very reasonable Nigerian who wants to make a name in history. And we can get this case started sooner so that we can finish the process that Dr. Abayomi is talking about. In the next 2 years, we will come to a new dawn where the people will laugh. In fact, I propose there be national country assembly in Abuja that will proclaim the constitution as being approved.
Dr. Akin Fakmoda, you're the author of this bill seeking the new governance model. Thank you for coming on this morning. Well, Dr. Abayomi, let me ask you, I mean, for those who think that there isn't any fundamental difference between 1979 Constitution and the 1999 Constitution, other than two things, 13% derivation and the number of states. They think there's no difference between those documents.
On the 1999 Constitution said it. If you look at the preamble, it says it. That is just, is really adopting of the 1979 Constitution. But whether you're talking of 1979 Constitution or you're talking of 1999, they are all fruits of a poisonous tree. The poisonous tree is the dictatorship that foisted it on us. That's the poisonous tree. I told President Obasanjo in his own house. That's a poisonous tree. A constitution must emerge in freedom and consensus, approbation of the people.
Well, I guess let's just say that the conversation continues, Kayla, because I know that, just as you said earlier, it's a conversation that started quite a time ago. Dr. Tunji Abayomi, human rights activist and legal practitioner, thank you so much for your time this morning. Well, there's another issue brewing about the minimum wage, which is also going to be a law. But that constitution is coming up during Business Morning on Sunrise Daily right now.
Good morning. Happy Monday to everyone and to you, Ayo. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm Ini John McCran. We're set to do business for this week, beginning from the global space. As usual, we begin with oil prices this morning, as we see that prices edged up on Monday, aided by hopes of rising fuel demand this summer, although a firmer dollar boosted by lower chances of imminent interest rate cuts. Remember, interest rate cuts was the theme of last week, from the European Central Bank to Canada, and then we're looking at the United States now. But let's see what prices are doing. Brent this morning gained 15 cents, that's 0.2%. As of this morning, up to $79.77 a barrel, away from that 80 level, which we had closed on Friday. For WTI, $75.63 a barrel after it gained 0.1%. And yes, on Friday also we had that jobs data from the United States, higher than expected. 220,000 jobs were created, and that could mean that things are looking good. But we all know that the United States is now being pressured by the rate cut that happened in the Europe and then in Canada, and then we're looking for what's going to happen in the UK. Goldman Sachs expects Brent to rise to $86 a barrel in the third quarter. We'll see how much that goes. Then we come back home to Nigeria and see how the Naira closed on Friday. NAFEX appreciated against the dollar on Friday, closed at 1,483 Naira 99 kobo after it opened 1,484. Slight gain, marginal, but the good news is that it's a gain looking upwards, as well as NAFEX. Also, that's gained 0.01, very, very minute, but at least it's a gain anyways. 1,481 Naira 32 kobo. That's what the market should open with this morning, as we know it's trading, and by the close of trade, we would let you know what the numbers look like. Now, still in Nigeria, let's head to Abia State in southeast Nigeria, where the government there is assuring residents that the administration will continue to build a business-friendly environment in the state in order to improve the ease of doing business and boost economic growth and development. And this promise was made during the commissioning of a multi-million-naira logistics and e-commerce corporate headquarters in the capital, Umuahia. The deputy governor of the state, engineer Ikechukwu Emetu, says that the ongoing infrastructural development in the state will clamp down on touts and renew the fight against criminality were part of strategies to make Abia investor-friendly state.
We are one that is trying to create that ease of doing business in the state. And first of all, we are trying as much as possible to bring in security, and at the same time, allowing businesses to thrive properly, especially investors like you. Because when you invest in the state, definitely you will be able to employ a whole lot of people who will be causing problems in the state and at the same time causing the problems for the government.
Outside Nigeria now, the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, has expressed his optimism for Africa's future, focusing on the continent's untapped potential and abundant opportunities. The FDB president, in his speech at the Chatham House, highlights Africa's dynamic and vibrant workforce while stressing that innovative solutions are key to unlocking the continent's natural capital for economic growth.
The future of Africa's youth is not in London. It's not in America. It's not in Asia. It's not in Latin America. It's not in any part of the world. It is in Africa, growing well, with quality growth, paying attention to inequality, and paying attention to turn its demographic asset into an economic dividend. The young people of Africa are the best assets we have, but we have to put our money to back them up, to take on the world, and they can do that. And that's why the African Development Bank, when I got in there, I said, look, we're going to create what we call new financial institutions around our young people. And we are doing that today because we are rolling out what's called Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Banks. They are new financial institutions whose whole focus, take the skills, take the entrepreneurship, take the brain power of our young people, help them to turn into great businesses, and put the wind of financial capital behind them. They are not different from anybody around the world. Take a risk for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be nice to see those banks, according to the FDB president, the Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Bank, which he said, I think it's already approved for 2 states, Angola being one of them, and Ethiopia. Those are the 2 states that have those banks, that have the board approval for those banks already. And I mean, expanding it obviously to other parts of Africa would be a welcome idea. Now, back here in Nigeria, well, the economy is a bit uncertain at this time because we know that the issue of the new minimum wage is still very hot in the burner, and unfortunately, Labour and the government have not been able to meet when it comes to how much it should be. That's the new minimum wage. We know that Labour has shifted ground to about half of what they were demanding for, about 250 now. Federal government is saying 62,000 naira. Guess what? The state governments, the state governors are saying that they cannot even afford 60,000 naira. I think they put it about 57,000 naira. Now let's look at some numbers before we delve into what can they really afford, you know. Now let's look at a major source of income for government, state government. Let's focus on the state government today for now. So we see that FAC, for instance, for April was 2.1 trillion naira. Federal government got 390 billion naira. States got 400, and we now have 36 states. They got 403 billion naira. Local governments, that's a conversation for another day. One of these days we'll shine our light on the local government. Local government got 293 billion naira. So apart from this, for the states, we have those oil-producing states. They share 13% derivative revenue, and they had, for this month, for April, they had 120 billion naira. Now, if I may have the next slide, to help us see the expenses now. How do they spend their money? That's this state. This is just a general overview. I know that a couple of months ago, we had budgets sharing how much each of the states spends on food, expenses, salaries, and non-salary recurrent expenditure. And I know that made the news then. If you check around, you would see that. Now, 36 states spent 1.71 trillion naira on recurrent expenditure for the first 9 months of last year, 2023. Believe me, even up to now, we don't have the full expenditure, recurrent expenditure of states for 2023. Unfortunately, the issue of data comes back. Now, states' total expenditure is expected to be this total expenditure, and just 1 trillion naira, about 1 trillion naira less than the revenue. So, of course, this is taking into consideration the fact, which we started with, you know, that they get every month, they get 403 billion naira, about that. And then the oil-producing states get 13% derivatives, which, of course, makes it even more. Let's find out, perhaps, if some of this, and, you know, some of these are for food, visitors, travels, and all of that. Perhaps, if this is reduced, can we or can the states afford to pay a more agreeable minimum wage, you know, to labor? Well, it's not my say. It's something we'll have to push for. But now let's have the director of Center for Economic Policy Analysis and Research at UNILAG, Professor Ndubuisi, joining us right now for that. Professor Ndubuisi, welcome. Thank you so much, and good morning, sir.
Thank you, Professor Mukoma, on the line. Thank you.
So Professor Mukoma, when you hear state governments saying that they cannot afford to pay 60,000 naira as minimum wage. What comes to your mind? I know you're an economist, so obviously you should think of it as in the impact on the economy, more money in circulation, issue of inflation. But really, what comes to your mind when you heard that statement?
I don't think I agree entirely with the state governors that they cannot pay. They can. It's a matter of trying to realign their fiscal circumstances. Because that's a problem at all levels, at all tiers of government, both the local government, the state and the federal. There's the need for a total realignment of their fiscal circumstances, particularly the area of their expenditure programs. So if they do some adjustments here and there, I believe the states can pay the minimum wage. But the issue now is to determine what the minimum wage will be. Probably as we progress, we'll be able to come to terms what, in my view, it ought to actually be.
Think it should be that can be sustainable for both the federal, the state, and of course the workers? Yes.
Okay. Now, if you want to go into what it ought to be, like you said from your preambles, that there's so much money coming in because of the subsidy removal, which took place last year when the president came and announced that subsidy is gone. And of course, they have more money as revenue because of the removal of the subsidy. Now, if you take a look at that, the minimum wage when this government came into office was 30,000 naira. 30,000 naira. And this was set like 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, what was the exchange rate like? It was about 360 naira, thereabouts. That is under President Buhari when the minimum wage was set, about $30,000 naira. And at 360 naira to $1 then, if you want to do some little arithmetic, that comes to about $83 as minimum wage per month. Now, if you take a look at what the exchange rate is now, it's about 1,450 naira to $1 or more. But let's just use 1450 as a benchmark figure. If you multiply that by $83, you will come to about 124,000 naira. That is what the equivalent of that 30,000 naira of 5 years ago, it would be now if you factor in exchange rate. So definitely, if you're going to pay minimum wage anything less than 124,000 naira, you're actually bringing down the real income of the minimum wage workers, somebody who's at the minimum wage level. Because anything less than that, because the issue is the purchasing power of the money. Because in economics, we have what we call nominal wage against real wage. Nominal income against real income. In nominal terms, if you make it over 30, you can say, yes, there's an increase. But in real terms, if you make it 100,000 naira as minimum wage, it is actually less than 30,000 naira of 5 years ago, in real terms. So definitely, government really needs to take a look at this critically. If you bring in inflation, you could be doing double counting or other variables, but let's just take only one variable, that's the exchange rate. Because every other price has gone up. What is food inflation now is over 40%. So if government is going to enhance the welfare of workers, paying them anything less than 120,000 naira as minimum wage, you're actually bringing down the real income of the worker. So I think we need to take a look at that and factor in all these variables. And government has more money. So what has to happen is that government needs to realign its fiscal circumstances. You can't tell me that government has no money when you have so much money being spent on renovation of the house of the vice president. You can't tell me that government has no money when we can see so much travels going on by political office holders, so much going on at National Assembly, so much going on with the ministers, and people can see government spending so much money on Hajj operations, and you'd say there's no money to pay minimum wage. In my view, any wage, any minimum wage that is less than 100,000 naira is below the real income of what 30,000 could offer you 5 years ago. So they need to take a look at this figure very critically. Unless the thinking is that the country can only recover economically if the poor man is made worse off. That's the logic. That the poor man must be made worse off before the economy can improve. There's need for government to take a look at the cost of governance. That, in my view, is where the problem is. The cost of governance needs to come down drastically, and that has not happened.
So, Prof, what about this conversation that it doesn't really matter the number, 60,000, 120,000, 250. What matters is making the Naira gain value. That way, the purchasing power is strong, even if the number is not so high.
Yes, making the Naira gain value, there are two sides for any market, the supply side and the demand side. The supply side is a challenge for Nigeria. We have so much oil theft going on, still going on. We have not been able to oftentimes meet our OPEC quota. The supply side and the production is not going on. There are dislocations in the supply chain. So we cannot even earn so much money as export proceeds. So that is the supply side of foreign exchange. Then the CBN is trying to jack up the NPR to be able to attract foreign capital. The money you're going to attract usually are hot money, portfolio investments, because they are not coming into an environment as FDI. So you want to bring in to that on the supply side, bring in more foreign exchange to be able to stabilize it. But how possible is that? Any money that comes in now by jacking up your NPR will come in just to do for the returns, and then if any little dislocation, it will just go out. So that is on the supply side. It has challenges. Address the issue of oil thefts. Meet up your OPEC quota. Be able to make the environment conducive for production so as to earn export proceeds in dollars. Then the demand side, we have so much demand for foreign currency. The demand for foreign goods is so high. So a number of times what government is doing is borrowing from Afri-Exim Bank, borrowing from African Development Bank. How long can you sustain this? Is it sustainable? So bringing down, we all want the government to stabilize the exchange rate. Fine, but do you have enough dollars to sustain that? So these are issues. But until then, any minimum wage that is less than 120 naira, 20,000 naira, in my view, if you are going to get a real income that is less than what 30,000 naira can afford you 5 years ago. So which means the people are getting poorer. And unless that happens, so what government is offering is about half of what it ought to be. And I hope they realize this, that the people of Nigeria, many people are really suffering. Poverty is all over the country. And I think government needs to do something about it. And also manage the announcement. That's what we call the announcement effect. They need to do these things quietly and let workers get these increments in a very quiet form, because there's the announcement effect of policy, so that it will not trigger up another round of inflation. These are areas that the Minister of Finance, who is the coordinating Minister of the Economy, needs to really work hard on, or else we'll just be going from fry pan to fire.
But Professor Wakoma, how can that be managed quietly? All eyes are now on, whatever announcement, whatever word, not even sentences, but words, that come out about the minimum wage. Labors are up. We might be going on strike again. So how can they manage it quietly? Because there's also that threat of inflation that could come with higher minimum wage.
Yes, they can manage it by making less noise. I think because it has been proven empirically, there's what we call the announcement effect of policy. They need to talk. Government actually need to be more serious, in my view. I don't think they are serious enough. They are still playing hanky-panky. That's my view. Government needs to sit down with labor, quietly agree on what the minimum wage should be, and begin to implement it. Not too much. There's too much noise and less action going on. And that noise is actually working against the workers, against inflation. Government should sit down. Now that we've had this 5-day reprieve, they've called up the has been suspended for 5 days, they can now talk when they should quickly get down to discuss and come to an agreement. There was this other rumor that the federal government said they can go with 105,000 naira, which in my view is more realistic, which they denied eventually. They say it's not true. I think if that is actually what happened, they need to really stick with that. It is far from what they are offering. Very, very, very low. it's about half of what it ought to be to maintain the real income of 5 years ago. So government should work on the supply side of foreign exchange, manage the demand side, and then see how we can bring down the exchange rate. Until then, any rate below 120, in my view, will not work in the interest of workers.
Yeah, I'm sure the state governors would want to hit you right now for saying that, Prof, because they say they can't even afford more than 57,000. I think that even some people are still owing 30,000 naira as we speak, unfortunately, in the state. Well, we have to thank you so much, Professor Ndubisi Nwokoma, the Director of the Center for Economic Policy Analysis and Research at University of Lagos.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll head to the markets. To stay with us.
There's a lot of fear in the journey towards building wealth, especially in an ever-changing economy like ours. And you know why that is? It's because navigating the world of investments without facts and insights is like walking in the dark. But that fear stops now. Opportunities open up to you when you have a trusted guide. Someone with over 28 years of experience advising individuals, corporates, and governments to achieve their dreams through strategic and well-timed investments. That someone is AfriInvest. The journey of 1,000 miles is easier when you have a trusted guide and partner who knows the way. So, take the first step. AfriInvest. Simplifying investments, creating wealth.
Welcome back. Let's head to the markets now. Yes, the markets should be open by now, but let's do a little bit of recap from last week. We saw that the all-share index for the NGX last week ended in the red, the first trading week of the month of June, and I think we had just about 2 positives, but eventually the bears had it. Equities cap is 56 or closed at 56.12 trillion naira. That's for the NGX. The volume, value, and deals were in the green for that. Even though, I mean, the week before, the final week in the month of May was kind of magical or miraculous because we had more negative trades, but the market closed in the green. And so we see this month starting in the negative. Now let's go to the fixed income market. Last week was busy, as we know that the federal government has been working really hard to mop up cash from the economy, and they are using more of OMO this day. So last week we had both OMO and Treasury bills, and we saw that for the OMO auction last week, 250 billion naira was an offer. Total subscription was 518.95 billion. And we see the rate still looking attractive. For 105, you had almost 19%, 189, 19.59%, and for about a year, you see 22.33%, looking close to the inflation number, which should which should make it attractive to a lot of investors. I see our graphics guy behind there trying to play some pranks on me. Now, if we go to the NTB for the Treasury bills also for last week, let's look at the numbers right there. We saw that 231.13 billion was on offer. Total subscription was 713.8 billion. 91-day rate was about 16.5. 182, 17.5, 364, 20.67 at the close of the trading last week. Now let's have Demola. Demola Oshotukun is a fixed income dealer with Access Bank. Join us now to help us put flesh to those numbers. Demola, good morning. And last week you guys were really busy. A lot of auctions happened. Yes. I think the federal government is aggressively mopping up cash from the economy, and also it seems to be working, at least for the need that we have for FX.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and you hit the nail on the head. Last week there was significant liquidity at about Tuesday and Wednesday, so it was no surprise largely that the CBN came in with an OMO auction. They offered about 250 billion, which you mentioned, and we saw them oversell. So they sold about 513 billion out of that 518 subscription. So you can see quite an aggressive drive in terms of their contractual policy to ensure that there's less liquidity within the market. I think, as you mentioned, we saw rates around a similar level to where it closed at the previous OMO auction. So at the long end, it was about 22.33%, which represents just a 1 basis point decline from the previous one. So at 29% yield, still a very good investment for a number of our investors. And I think, as you mentioned as well, for the NTB auction, we saw a similar trend, where we saw rates close at, a similar level to where they had stopped at, the previous auction. So at the long end, about 20.67% stop rate, which represents about 27% yield. So we can see that from the DMO, it's a bit of a cautious, maybe approach in terms of not looking to borrow at very expensive costs. Yeah, well, because we thought that by now rates would have fallen more than this, because the federal government has really, pushed the bar when it comes to rates. And of course, this increases debt servicing for the government at the end of the day. So I'm kind of a bit surprised that the rates are still this high. Do we see it tapering, or perhaps there's another plan that both the DMO and the federal government have? I think for now, as you've mentioned, it's going to be my perception is it's a cautious approach, in terms of keeping these rates at 20.67. So we can see that 21%, especially for the NTB auction, it's kind of like the level that they don't want to go above. As we mentioned, for the OMO auction, they're using that not only to mop up excess market liquidity, but also to bring in those PI flows. As we know that for the OMO auction, it's exclusively for banks and FPIs. So there's an NTB auction this week where it's a small amount, just about 44 billion that's going to be offered. So we await to see the approach that the DMO will take. But, I do expect that we'll continue to see rates around 20.67%, So I think they're not looking to increase rates significantly. We saw that at the last MPC when they increased rates. So largely the expectation was people thought, for the NTB auction, we might look to see, rates increase from 20% levels to maybe 21, 22. But that there's a cost attached to that, and they're choosing to take a cautionary approach.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see what their plan will be for the second half of the year, because if they raise all they want in the first half, then, second half might be really quiet. But thank you so much, Dimolo Shituku, for your time, and wish you a great trading day ahead.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
So that's how much we can take on Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We head back to the Sunrise Daily studios now for more conversations. Just stay with us here on Channels Television.
Well, yes, Mr. Bennett Igwe joins us here. He is the Commissioner of Police for the FCT. Good morning, and thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, a review of the activities of the force in the last year, May 29 to May 19. We know that you came in at some point. So I know you have also seen some of the analysis out there in terms of some of the reports as to what persons have crunched for the situation in the FCT. So from the ones you have seen so far, are those ones not correct?
It may be correct. I don't have the past data. I have the data from when I took over as the Commissioner of Police of FCT on the 2nd of February this year. I took over. And we have changed the narrative of this visuals. The narrative has been changed properly and properly. And you can see that it's peaceful everywhere in FCT. So we have started, who is talking of kidnapping again in FCT? At least everybody in FCT knows what we have been doing. There's no kidnapping. Some people can flash in and flash out. If they enter, we respond. So, because we have volatile neighbors, that's Nasarawa, Kaduna, Niger, that are volatile to crimes and banditry. So, we have changed the narrative properly.
Okay, so part of the concern that people raised at that time was from between May 29, 2023 and May 19, 2024, the report by Beacon Security indicated kidnapping for about 58 persons were kidnapped, and then a total of about 39, unfortunately, lost their lives at the time. So ever since you came in, what is it that you have done differently?
Since I have come in, no persons have lost their life apart from the one that died in Kuje, one Alhaji, I've forgotten his name, the APC chairman, who was in the process. That one we can say is assassination. But what we are saying is that we have changed the narrative of crimes in FCT generally, including kidnapping and banditry, as well as armed robbery, car snatching, and so on. Even common Babambola affair that have now entered into robbery. We have changed the narrative.
Let's be able to look at what's happened, because you came in February.
Yes,
of this year, February 2nd. Okay, so February, of course, we did see that zero. It actually went to zero when you came in.
Yes.
So zero, and then in March, according to Beacon Security, and they said they worked with the police on this. Is this true?
I don't know who's Beacon Security.
Okay, so they March they said 2, it was low. April, it went up a little bit to 14, then it came down again to 16, and then down to 3, which was all, you're correct, a change in the narrative in the past year. But what happened was that they saw a spike in May. And that spike in May saw kidnappings rise to 49.
No, it's not true. I can stand here to say it's not true.
Okay.
I can bet everything I have.
They also pointed out that this had to do with a situation that happened in Dawaki at the time.
The situation that happened in Dawaki, they did kidnapping. I was the first person to respond to the situation. And I was there in Dawaki, and we rescued all. So why is somebody saying he's kidnapped?
The rescue efforts in Dawaki, because what happened was we actually even sent our correspondent to Dawaki at the time. And I remember I called you were in the bush when I called you. So it did seem as though some of the residents in the area were not quite sure what was being done.
So why
and they were saying the figures, they were saying that many of their people were still missing. You have to understand that when people say people are still missing in my neighborhood, that in itself causes some worry. So maybe we can get an update on you on that, because we haven't been able to speak since then.
As at now that you are talking to me, there's no kidnapping victim that is anywhere in any kidnapper's camp. So why should somebody report it?
Was everybody rescued in Dawaki? What kind of rescue?
Yes, what happened is that when we started shooting with the kidnappers, people scampered around.
Okay.
So some even went towards Niger, because we have to follow them up to the hills. And there were many. So I don't want to say so many things, but we discovered people were, you can see those that we even took to hospital. Some have been recovered in area like Kagaruku. So they wandered up to Kagaruku. So we have recovered many. If anybody call you now and said his people still remain in that kidnappers camp, tell him that you met the commissioner of police and that said it's not true.
So CP, how many were kidnapped then in May at that time? For that?
We don't know. We only went there. We only went there to the bush. Because once we rescued, some people were even rescued on the road.
So how many altogether were rescued?
We rescued all.
How many are there?
I cannot say the figure, but because some people even said they thought they were kidnapped, only for them to see themselves free.
I don't understand.
I'm telling you.
It was a confusing situation. So a lot of the people even ran into the bushes.
Yes, by themselves.
Yes.
Some ran into the bush by themselves.
So, but
saying they are fearing kidnapping. From there, they started running into the bush.
but since you can't say the number of those who were kidnapped,
yes,
isn't it possible then that they got the number?
They can't get
this
number.
particular, which is
from
49.
The residents.
No.
What
I'm saying, the fact is that if there's attempted kidnapping, it's a different situation than being kidnapped. There are two different things.
No, but since you rescued them, could it then be that they're referring to those who were kidnapped and then rescued?
If we rescue them, it's attempted kidnapping. They are not kidnapped, finally. So there is attempted kidnapping. Attempted kidnapping is different from kidnapping itself.
Okay,
kidnapping is that somebody is somebody's den, and some people are paying ransom. That is kidnapping.
Okay, so if they were not in anybody's den and then the police freed them from the den, they cannot have been said to have been kidnapped.
No. If in the movement we had a shootout and people were rescued, it's attempted kidnap.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the work. The last time we spoke, it was about there was something the IG had launched in the FCT.
Yes.
Operation Red Velvet.
Yes.
I think Red Velvet.
Yes.
So talk to us a bit about that operation and subsequent, because there have been so many operations. I think the thing has been.
Operations.
We haven't been hearing a lot from, because we have to be able to get. We see the parade of suspects.
Yes.
We see that,
yes.
But we need to know the operations that are going on in the FCT after Red Velvet. What were the successes of Red Velvet, and what is going on right now?
What is going on right now is that we have seen number one is that there's no longer any kidnappers den in FCT. There's none. Okay. I can bet everything I have to say it. You cannot say this is a kidnappers camp in FCT, no matter from where the kidnapper is, no matter both from Kuje to Buhari to anywhere that is FCT, up to Dobi, up to Ibuwa in Gwagwalada, up to Yebu-Yaba in Abadi side, up to Kwaita, up to Gafara in Kuje. You cannot say look at kidnapping anywhere that is kidnappers camp.
Okay.
So what we have is that we are not dominating our boundaries, Operation Dominate Boundary.
Okay.
That's our new operation now. We are dominating our boundary, and in domination of our boundary, you can see us entering into area like Sabemuse is in Niger, Garam is in Niger, Dafa is in Niger, Tafa is in Niger. You can see us entering into Madala, that is in Niger. You can see us entering into Kuyeri. You can see us entering into Gidandogo in Kaduna. Kuyeri is in Kaduna. Gidandogo is in Kaduna. Acham is in Kaduna, Niger, by boundary. Then up to Jere. So we have now started dominating all our boundaries. In Nasarawa side, we have entered the Sadana forest, and we are now the owners of Sadana forest.
Talk to us a little bit more about that Gidandogo and Koti forest along the Kaduna city. We understand that police and military raided those hills.
We went.
And then some bandits.
Yes.
What happened? Tell us about that.
We launched an operation there. It's not in FCT. It's in Kaduna State. But because he's too close to call. It's too close to call.
So was it FCC police? Or
yes.
It was in conjunction with Kaduna State?
No, it was with our military that went. It's we that they know we entered.
Was it a hideout of bandits?
Yes.
Den?
Yes, it's in Kaduna State. But we have to go. We don't need to allow them. Because from there they will do flash in. Do what we call flash in and flash out. So we want to stop the flash in and flash out. So, and that's what we are doing now.
So those persons that were raided and arrested, is there any identity in terms of, have they been identified or linked with any crime in FCT?
All of them are kidnappers. And they have, if you see the confession, you even weak. As at last night, we arrested somebody that is supplying them things. Because we had a shootout in their camp. Some of them have run very far. By this morning when we came back, I just came back this morning.
What kind of things are they supplying them?
Food of stuff, beans, rice, oil. If you go, you see pots. If you see the video we supplied online, you will see the things there. They even have mattress, sleep in an open place in mattresses.
But how is it that these people were there, they were getting supplies, and then there's no way that residents or anyone close or remote could identify and report to the police that something is going on here?
That is why in FCT we are saying, when you see something, say something. When you see something, say something. If you can imbibe that spirit, when you see something, say something. Because when you see something and say something, we do something. We have it in FCT. And that is what has accounted to our successes. It is wonderful. How did I launch into Dawaki you are talking about? I was in Dakwa, in an operation in Dakwa. It was a cyclist that called me and told me that he saw some people moving up. He's still kidnapping. People are crying. That's how I rushed. I rushed and rest. He directed me toward the hill where it is. But I called all my teams, all the DPO, everybody. We entered. That's what happened. The train that derailed after Buhari, going to Kaduna, the train that loaded in Kaduna, going to Buhari, going to Kaduna, loaded in Idu, going to Kaduna. The train derailed immediately after Buhari in an area called Acham, in a village called Acham, in a bush. And what happened is one of the passengers that called me on the phone that they're in danger, and it's almost night. So what did I do? I have to rest on, even though it's not in FCT, but it's too close to be called. I have to rest on. I reached Jere. After reaching Jere, I discovered that it's before Jere. I have to turn back, follow the rail, and use speed because I know that area is a danger area. And that's how I reached there. And what I did is to rescue all of them, 576 passengers, and brought them back to Idu safely. Because the coach that derailed is the head that goes to Kaduna. So we now ensure, I guided them, we ensure we use the back head to come back to Idu safely. And when they saw us, they were, in fact, if you see how people, they were surprised, they were happy, people were crying, people were praying, so you can come to rescue. I said, that is my duty, and that's my work.
So, it's good to know, actually, that people are volunteering information.
Yes.
So have you seen a spike? Is it increasing how they volunteer information to police without being afraid that the same robbers will come and attack them?
No. The time is that nomenclature that when you give a security man or policeman information, the person that gave information will come back to the attack. Is as old as Methuselah. That is an old nomenclature that have gone with Methuselah. So now is when you say something, you say something. And that's what has accounted to a lot of our successes. And they have been saying something. If I bring my phone now, from now that we are talking, before you see what will happen to my phone, even WhatsApp.
I mean, when you first came in, one of the first things that you had to deal with when you came in was the one chance.
Yes.
Was the one chance situation.
Yes.
And we have seen a lot of decline.
Yes.
In the one chance situations.
Yes.
What would you say you're dealing with right now?
What I'm dealing with right now is that, you see, there may not be one chance in living in FCT. All these one chance people are living in an area like Madala, Suleja, Suleja, Madala, outskirts. What do you call it? Mararaba, Ado, Gosa, Kura. That's where they live. Those areas that has no address. You know, people live in those areas that has no address. They don't have address. So that's from where they flash in and think they will flash out. And I said, no. If you come to FCT to do one or two things, and because you are living in Madala or Masaka, that is not in FCT, that you go, I will go there to catch you. I don't care how you feel. Your feeling is not important. What is important that I have caught you. I will bring you back to FCT. And you come and face it. And that's exactly what I'm doing now.
So yeah, you're working with all the other states.
I work with them.
Make sure.
We communicate on a daily basis. You know, if something is happening in Mararaba here, Masaka, Ado, Gosa, go here, Gora, before they will come from Lafia to reach here, I have already overrun the place and catch whoever I want to catch. If it works transferring to Lafia, I will transfer to them.
So police has improved with their response time if an armed robbery is going on?
No matter what is, we have improved. We have not only improved, we are even trying to see how to bring it more. We have 5 minutes response time now in FCT.
5 minutes.
In any part of
Can we say this, that the response time for security in the FCT is 5 minutes?
5 minutes, yes.
These estates that are complaining about robberies, because it's not just kidnappings that happen in the FCT.
Which of the estates?
The estates around Kubwa, that Arab Road side. After Arab Road, there are these estates that are near those mountains.
Yes. So I know the estate you are talking about.
Yes.
Towards I know Arab Road.
Okay. So those particular places where they keep saying, "Oh, my estate was attacked," and they keep sending all those messages on social media. They send us those messages all the time. My estate was attacked.
Some of the things you see in social media, just like the one I saw there before yesterday, and they are not true. Yes, I wonder how people do things. Some people will stay somewhere, concoct a message, and I don't know the purpose, and start sending it to social media. What do they want to achieve? I have to attack one of the press. So tell me what you want to achieve. Because from the beginning of your story to the last, none is true. They started to apologize to me. You can call my PRO. I said, no, I will take it up. I'm going to take it up. Because you cannot start writing lies from beginning to the end.
So you're saying all those videos online were lies?
If you see any video, just like the one you people showed for visuals yesterday and said it's the crime situation in FCT, where you know it was for 2023. And people were calling me and asking me, so crime in FCT has not reduced and it's like this.
No, from May 29, 2023 to May 19, 2023.
You would have stopped in February now.
No, it's a yearly review.
It's a yearly review.
And you would have stopped if it's a yearly review, when you reach February, you would have gone to February and said something like this is happening. You didn't say it now.
Well, that is why you're here. That is why you're here. So that you can say your own.
I have to call channel.
That is why you're here.
I have to call channel. And I said, so crime situation in Abuja have not resumed. I have seen your 1-year crime report.
No. But we just looked at that building security report. And we put it to you. And you said something has changed. That's what we're talking about.
Come to me. And if you have doubt, call in the PRO. You have police emergency lines. I operate open door policy. And I operate open information. I don't care what you write. As far as what I'm saying is what I'm doing, my conscience appreciates what I'm doing. That is right. I'm okay.
So that's why those stats are.
But when you write what is not true, it baffles me. It gets me baffled.
But you know these stats are not lies. You haven't said that. You haven't said these figures are lies. You're saying that things have changed.
That you said now, I stand here to say it is not true.
The 48, which is what you're speaking to.
Yes, I stand here to say it is not true.
If they call those emergency lines,
yes,
because you said somebody called your own direct line,
yes,
do they get the same response?
Yes, ma'am.
With those police emergency numbers?
The police emergency number is 24 hours. Don't under me. It's 24 hours. Ask payment person. 08032 003913. That's police emergency line.
Okay, so those numbers are on the screen.
I think they're trying to put the numbers on the screen right now so that everybody can have these numbers.
But what have you done ever since you came in about some police stations?
Why can't you ask me that as you are coming now, you don't see this Babambola everywhere again?
I do. I see Babambola a lot in Garki.
No.
In Garki, every morning. Every morning, 5 o'clock. In fact, I even brought it up with the NSCDC director because they're the ones supposed to make sure. Those guys carry weapons.
That is as at the last 2 weeks ago. Since last week and so on, I arrested 1,216 Babambolas. 1,216, and they're in prison. You can ask and check. Go to the road. People are asking, where are these Babambolas?
This was 2 weeks ago.
Yes, from 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago is still June,
because
not February.
You can see people criticizing me for arresting Babambola, for arresting Babambolas. And that this. They're looking for scavengers. And I say, hey, when they start carrying weapons.
Very true. Because those scavengers carry weapons.
We have recovered weapons from Babambolas. Strong weapons. You cannot, AK-47. 2 AK-47 we are recovered from Babambolas in Zuba. 7 pump action has just been recovered from Babambola in Kabusa. So, and I will allow them. When they have changed the nomenclature of their operation, I have to equally change mine.
Now, non-residents of FCT, Babambola, for instance, if I was in Lagos, those scavengers that go seeking for iron and things, those are the ones FCT calls Babambola.
Yes, scavengers.
Being takers.
And you said you arrested someone with AK-47?
Yes.
Wow.
That's the issue. And that's why we spoke in touch. I said, no. For this thing to happen like this, it must more to it.
So when you do this, do you compare, do you tell your fellow CPs in other states, please, this could be a scenario. Check those scavengers in different states to be sure they are not carrying this kind of weapons too?
Yes, we do. When we meet in the conferences.
We see them a lot in Lagos, moving around the whole place.
That is why if we meet in Lagos, when we bring out a template and act on it, it cannot be a starting template for other commands to follow.
What have you done?
Since I started, if you go to some areas, you can see one chance people, they don't treat them as robbers. But one chance is robbery. Because there's no law in this country establishing an offense called one chance. But because they obtain by force, to put somebody out on a vehicle by force, it's robbery. So I changed the nomenclature to full robbery. And if I arrest you, I treat you like a robber. I don't care how you feel. And that's the position of the law.
Is there a figure? Do you have any figure for us?
I have so many figures. If you have asked me, I will give you.
So maybe when next we have you, you bring all those figures.
But CP, you knew you were coming. Why didn't you bring the figure?
No, I was coming to complain.
But you didn't give your figure. No. You're complaining without the figure.
I saw your crime statistics yesterday that you were rolling out, and I said it's not true.
But I asked you how many. You said no, you don't have it.
No, the one you asked me, the one I said that is not true is the 48 kidnap is not true. I can stand anywhere, and we can go eat anywhere. And one of the issues they have not done is to differentiate attempting kidnapping and the kidnapping.
Oh yes, because you do need to.
Which is a very wrong
because what happened?
assumption.
At least listen to what we are saying right now. A lot of the things that people are calling kidnappings that are happening are actually attempted kidnappings.
That is what I'm saying.
So when it comes to that dynamic, how are you handling it in your office?
There's attempted kidnapping. That is kidnapping. Attempted kidnapping is that kidnapping did not fully take place. There was no demand for ransom. They were rescued along the line. I don't know if you understand. That one is attempted kidnapping. Like the one that happened in Dawaki is attempted kidnapping. If I didn't go to Acham to rescue those passengers that died in the train, anything can happen.
CP, what have you done about ever since you came? Because when I came too, there were people who were saying there are some police stations in FCT that are very notorious.
For?
If you want to report a case there, bribery, your case cannot see the light of day.
It's not true now. I can tell you categorically. If you see me go to the police station, many are coming back to tell me that the narrative has fully changed. Because we have to bring out our best 11 to the forefront. Our best 11 are in the forefront. So, and that's what we are doing. And that's our system of policing.
So, if we go undercover to any police station...
Go under any cover. You can even hide yourself. You can even hide yourself. Don't any cover. Go.
That means they will have kidnapped me. They can't see me.
I want like to be able to talk with you about because one of the issues that you did raise when you first came in February was collaborations and how you were working with the FCT administration.
Yes.
We have seen the FCT minister praise you for your work.
Yes.
Even giving, there was a time.
The 20 million bounty?
He gave a bounty.
He gave that one.
He gave a bounty.
Without the bounty, CP.
And they'll give me an award.
Without the bounty, would you have arrested?
Since after the bounty, I have arrested many.
So talk to us a bit about that synergy with the FCT authority.
The FCT authority is very wonderful, and I will say it anywhere, any place. The minister is a security man himself. When he speaks with the IG, like the IG will always call me, I don't want to hear this, I don't want to hear this. Because the IG has made me to be on my toe. The minister will call me, any small thing he hears, the next is my phone. CP, what are you doing? See. And you see, he's not sleeping. I'm telling you the truth.
Okay, so for those
Since people have started moving around the FCT without any, people cannot say because they move freely.
Let's look at some of these numbers because there should be many police emergency numbers.
Yes.
Now, are these ones correct for people to call? Police emergency numbers.
1, 2, 3. Yes, there are police emergency numbers.
So when they call any of these numbers,
5 minutes. You said
5 minutes.
5 minutes
response time.
What I have done that ensured us the 5-minute response time is the sectorization of Abuja I did. We sectorized Abuja. Abuja has been sectorized. And each sector has everything to attack any situation before we can now join from the headquarters.
Okay.
So if anybody has any issues, they can call these numbers and they will get a response.
Yes, immediately. You can even give some of them my number. Many of them are calling me. If you bring my phone now, you see WhatsApp. You see messages. We saw Babambola this side. We saw this person this side. We saw somebody carrying something that looked like a gun.
Just so we can help people understand again. Babambola is scavengers. Dustbin pickers. If you see those young boys, sometimes older men, you see them with sacks. And then they are picking things in your dustbin in the morning. Those are the people that we call
One of the things that has made us to start arresting them is the complaints that they will now carry your AC, you will not know. They will carry your generator, you will not know. They will remove your antenna, DSTV, all these antennas, and you will not know. They will pack them inside their bag. And some of them come with wheelbarrow. And this one that looks like wheelbarrow, and they will use it to carry them. If you see what we have recovered from Bamambolas, you will weep. And when they are transporting them, those things that they stole, they will chip it down, and they use their kaya on top, as if to say that is what is carrying from up to down. No.
All right, CP, well done for the work you're doing. Mr. Benedict is the Commissioner of Police for FCT, so you have those emergency numbers. If you have any issue, call those numbers. Let's respond to some of the messages, too, from our viewers now. We've got Tinuke, who's talking about what it says. Nigeria needs a governance model that recognizes our differences without allowing them to divide us. The only way to do this is to allow each state some autonomy and have a federal government that oversees and sets the tone for governance.
Tunde Bab says the idea of local government autonomy is like taking away power from one person, that's the governor, to many chairmen in the state. If there's no proper monitoring, they will be worse than the governors, he says. And I think we have this one from Imonoka.
Says on People's Constitution, according to the theories of representational constitutional legitimacy, the Constitution is legitimate because it is our people's constitution. It must reflect people's will or the person's presence, values, or foundational convictions. Most generally, it reflects who we are. Same person sends this one on people's constitution according to the theory as well. It's the same text that's been sent right there in front of you. Well, that's the show this morning. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your day. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful week ahead.
And I'm Kayla Megwa. Thank you so much for tuning in.
You're thinking about Babambola.
Oh, dear.
All right, I'm Shane Banalaso. Goodbye.
You You are cordially invited to the 3rd Annual Choir Festival with the theme, Messiah My Father. The Choir Festival will feature the winner of the 2023 edition, New Wine Ensemble, the host choir, Tabernacle Choir, other competing choirs, and several observant choirs. Star prize, 3 million naira. Second prize, 1.5 million naira. Third prize, 1 million naira. 10 observant choirs get 250,000 naira each, totaling 10 million naira, plus other consolation prizes and winners in other categories. Date is Sunday, 16th June 2024. Time 12 noon prompt. Venue Abraham Tabernacle or Ba Irinwale Road, GRA Shagamu, Ogun State. Chief host His Excellency Otumba Engineer Benga Daniel, FNSC FAENG, the Ashiwaju of Remo Christians. The Choir Festival, improving the art of singing in our churches.
Thank you for staying with us and welcome to News Track on Channels Television. I'm Kaido Kikilu. Well, these are the stories we're tracking for you at this time. The President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of Dr. Nkiruka Madueke as the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the National Council on Climate Change in an interim capacity, pending the confirmation of her appointment by the NCCC Supervisory Council. According to the Special Advisor on Media to the President, Ajuri Gilali, the President has also approved that Dr. Madueke is to serve as the co-chairperson of the Intergovernmental Committee on National Carbon Market Activation Plan. The President has also approved the appointment of Mr. Ibrahim Shelling as a Senior Special Assistant to him on climate finance and stakeholder engagement. He's seconded to the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat, where he will handle all matters related to climate finance and stakeholder and donor relations. Also appointed as Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Technology and Operations is Mr. Olamide Fagbuji. He's seconded to the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat, where he will oversee the digitization of a new open procurement process and cross-departmental procedural optimization initiative. The statement says the President expects the new appointees to bring their expertise and discipline to bear in these very important assignments in pursuance of the nation's aspiration on green industrial development and climate action for sustainable growth and national prosperity. And to party